Minister, I welcome the bill, and I think it makes very good and necessary adjustments, and it reflects some of the responsiveness to what's been a very, very frustrating planning environment. But we need to be clear, Minister, the issue is not primarily judicial review. We've heard people across the House, and I've been listening to everyone. There's so many good ideas here, Minister, but the planning laws that we're doing right now, we needed to drive delivery, not just manage the delay. I acknowledge that the bill does provide clarity on permissions under the 2000 and 2024 Acts and how they interact, and it does give temporary breathing room for unactivated permissions. It also rightly acknowledges that some permissions are caught up, but we've heard, as I've already said, we've heard members across speak about how it's ridiculous how someone in Galway can object to development in Dublin. I also think it's hilarious how some members in this House talk about the housing crisis, yet you look at their record and they're consistently objecting to housing developments in their own constituency. Talk about talking out both sides of their mouth. But all that is fine. There's real legal snags that deserve attention. We're talking about the marginal fixes. I really want to say about the planning law and how it's out of sync with reality. And Minister, I have mentioned this before in the House, and I've spoken to you about it before, about the funding of the HFA and how they're only meeting once a month, and I'd really urge you to look into that, Minister. We have developers who are waiting for sign-off on developments, losing money. We have foreign people who want to invest in Ireland, and how can they take us seriously when the Housing Finance Agency is only meeting once a month? It's a huge bottleneck that is losing developers money, which is going to in turn lose developments and slow us up with our delivery. Across Dublin Bay North, I speak with my constituency, we have land zoned, permission granted and development stalled. And you know yourself, both the local authorities of DCC and Fingal have spoken to me about this, where permissions exist, the timelines are too weak, and too many developers are sitting on the banks waiting for prices to rise, and it's not doing any public good. Another thing that I've spoken about before, Minister, and I think you know yourself, is the vacant and derelict register, and it's understaffed in Dublin. We've hundreds of houses that we have boarded up, and I have young mothers with children, and right around the corner is houses that are boarded up, and one of them gave me permission. Carla Keegan is waiting there with her 2 children, as a house down the road is there for a year with a boarded up thing. I think DCC and all the local authorities across Ireland need the vacant and derelict register to be enforced with more staff members and have key targets, because sometimes, as Deputy McGrath mentioned, people who aren't elected in these roles aren't held accountable, and then it's politicians who take the brunt of the public's rage when they don't have key targets for their workforce. So I'd love you to put in key targets for civil servants. Another thing is that I want to talk about is the issue that I've already mentioned hundreds of times, and it's private wires and how it will really help. You know yourself, one of the most practical and urgent structural changes, people have talked about water, people have talked about electricity, but if we bring in private wires, not anything huge, under 5 megawatts, right now, new apartment developments, say 300 units, require 300 separate connections. But if we can bring in private wires for developers to have one connection for those apartments, it will really speed up the development and the building. But one thing that's really key, Minister, is that when built, they're owned by the residents. And before I go off on a rant on this, it's about the news that you gave about the modular homes, Minister. And is it still going to be that modular homes built would just be for direct family members? Because if it is, I'd really urge you to relook at that. If you have room to build a modular home in the back of your garden, why should that just be for your family member when there's someone down the road who can help their son, or there's someone up the road, or there's a student coming here? We're trying to put as much possible in, Minister, and I'd really urge you to look at that. I think it would really help, and it would be the most beneficial. I don't understand why we limit to just direct family members. It makes no sense to me. I've kind of run out of time here, so I support the bill. I know it's a piece of legislative reform, and I really welcome the engagement you've had with me so far, Minister. I want to see you bring forward stronger measures to force activation. As I said, strengthen local authority capacity to get stuff done and put delivery first. We had a group in the AV room today talking about building above shops. As I'm in Dublin today, I need you to just quickly mention this in the last 10 seconds. The infrastructure is already there. We don't need private wires. We don't need more water connection. They already have connections to underneath the shops. If we can bring in reform that will help above shops development, Minister, it will really, really help. Good, Margaret.